California, Washington, Oregon flower farmers. And we're just like feeling like a startup company again. My husband's here in Miami too, and he like shut down the Miami branch. It was heartbreaking, just he threw out, I think, over $90,000 worth of flowers between giving it away and putting in dumpsters. And that's just his branch alone. So it was really heartbreaking. Lots of tears, lots of crying. But we're just trying to do what we can do. Again, kind of what you guys are doing, having conversations with different people in the industry, putting information out there. People don't have control of anything right now because no one knows what to expect. So even though we don't have the answers, we're just trying to help continue the conversation and say, if we don't have the answers, that's what the answer is right now. But once we have it, we'll be there for them. So it's just trying to kind of just tighten up with our community. That's what we've been focusing on. And again, trying to help those people who have figured out like no contact deliveries and things like that, like how that works. And, you know, it's been hard because I feel like someone must have turned us in like Los Angeles. We actually got like a call from the district attorney and everything. We worked it all out. We're still able to do business, but it's been a process. And most overwhelmingly, people are very excited of what we're doing and what we're trying to support. Because honestly, we are trying to support the flower growers as much as we can, because we know if they turn it off, it's done. Like it's not something that you can turn on and off. As I'm sure someone else will have more knowledge about that, but we're painfully aware of that. So we're just trying to do any little bits that we can. So yeah, I'm excited to be here with you guys having this conversation and seeing what we can do and what we all come up with.
Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Alicia and Adam, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Adam.
We are floral designers, bows and arrows. And yeah, this is so crazy right now, and we really don't know what to expect. We don't know when our events will continue. All of our weddings and events have been postponed to later days, but you know, we don't even know if things will get back to normal by the times they've postponed. Like, we still have a wedding late May, we still have a couple in June, but we don't know if everything's going to be back and ready by then. And I think also, I mean, I've been staying very positive throughout this whole thing because there is good that's come from this a little bit, like family time to create and explore, you know, new arenas of inspiration. But I think my biggest fear is that this will maybe continue or pop up again in the winter and happen. Like we just, none of us know. And I think that's like the scariest part. Like, we are planners and we have to plan for our business. We have to, you know, write our recipes, order our flowers, plan for season. We have a lot of weddings that, you know, were in the spring that have now moved to the fall. And like, so that's a totally different ingredient list and recipe list. So I think, which it's fine. Like, we can shuffle and move all of those things. But I think my biggest fear is the unknown. Like, how long will this be? Like, will I keep postponing? Like, will there be 5 different postponements? And will people still want to have big events?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the $1 million question for sure. You're right. Madison, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hey everybody, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'm a wedding designer, and my company is Heart Floral. And yeah, similarly to Alicia and Adam, just kind of waiting. It's been kind of a different response across the board. Like, I have some June people that are like really optimistic, and then I have some September things that are just like all getting postponed until next year. So we'll see. Emily and I had a class in April that we had to postpone until 2021, and yeah, I actually feel I went through like all the stages of grief already, so I'm kind of just here. I don't know, it's just interesting. I'm kind of viewing it more of like as a time to just create and be home and not be tired all the time and be able to put all my attention into one thing, which is just being home and looking at the seasons right now. I haven't really, a lot of like the coordinators and stuff, I haven't really heard a lot from them. I think everyone's kind of just still a little freaked out. And so I haven't had to do a lot of roof shuffling as of right now. I'm anticipating like a really crazy fall and a really crazy 2021. So that kind of gives me hope to just focus on my job right now, which is just like staying home. But yeah, I'm super concerned about the future in 2021 and people who like to have big weddings and just their ability to do so or willingness to spend their money. So we have no contact delivery for a couple Oregon growers, and like the middle market where all the local farmers sell is still open. So I'm just getting like some small orders of like local tulips and stuff just to play with. But yeah.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily. I'm a farmer florist. My business is Floripian. So I'm kind of the opposite of Yvonne, where I've got all the flowers and no clients. So, like Madison was saying, I plant a really specific color palette and bulbs and seeds and everything for each growing season, and specifically for workshops and classes. So I have all these tulips that are totally getting ready to pop, and nobody who can come and pick with them. So, yeah, it's similarly to what everyone else has said. It's kind of the unknown that is worrying me, and the desire to stay relevant in an industry where you don't know what the future is going to be. And my business in particular depends totally on travel and like people being able to travel. So having the borders completely closed has been stressful, and I've had to postpone a lot of private classes. The workshop, we originally postponed it to May and then to July, and then just finally decided 2021 is going to be a lot safer in the long run. So it's the stress of wanting to also be kind of a people pleaser, keeping people happy and trying to figure out the best for us and the best for them, and trying to figure all that out, refunds, like trying to work through all of that right now. But also enjoying the beauty of spring. And like you guys were saying, it's nice this is actually the first season that I've been able to just enjoy the blooms and not be totally stressed out about like, oh my gosh, are the tulips gonna bloom in like a week? And like messaging all of my flower friends, like, oh, what do I do? Should I bring them inside? How can I force these to bloom faster? So it's kind of nice just enjoying the ride and seeing everything take its natural course. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I am right now. And it's been nice spending time. My daughter's school has been closed for 3 weeks. So so it's been fun just kind of pretending to homeschool a little bit.
Yes, I've been homeschooling. I have two, and one in 5th grade, one in kindergarten, and it's honestly between like work and that, it's like I just want to blow my brains out at the end of the day. I'm not a teacher. I cannot handle it at all.
I'm lucky. She's 6, so we're still in like pre-kindergarten kind of stuff. Yes. So we can like find owl pellets and dissect owl pellets and plant seeds. You know, it's kind of. I mean,
such a fun age though for exploration. So that's really cool that she has your farm to work off of.
Totally,
yeah, that's amazing.
I'm so grateful right now to have the garden and the farm and be able to be outdoors and enjoy outdoors. That's totally true.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Emily. And last but not least, Scott.
Well, hi everybody. It's great to be a part of this. you know, it's interesting. A couple of months ago when we decided, well, we'll just put it this way. I had the opportunity to choose to go podcasting full time and chose to do that. And so that was kind of a scary time to do that. Not at the time, but now looking back, or now in our current situation, I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, reaching out to sponsors and things like that. And but you know, it's been great. The other thing that's been interesting is, you know, we had all these podcasts recorded that now, I mean, with incredible people, you know, and it was just like, gosh, you know, I know everybody wants to hear Ariella and what she has to say, but what she said, you know, a month and a half ago doesn't necessarily seem appropriate. So now we've pushed some of those back, and you know, we've been busy recording some new content that is relevant and relatable, I feel like, and that has brought on a whole other series of opportunities. It's I know it's just like Kim and I have talked about. It's like, you know, 2 months ago, I would never have thought about being on Zoom, and here we all are. And you know, it's like now it's the greatest thing ever. And so, yeah, it's crazy. And, you know, you can talk to people on different continents and do that. So it's been great. It's been great finding new ways to connect with people. I mean, I know either through, you know, DMing or emails, or people through live conversations, just like, you know, this, just being able to talk to people and hear kind of their stories and kind of what they're doing. And I really, Yvonne, I want to say I'm so excited that Mayesh, you know, was able to open that location, and I hope they can keep it going, because I really think for all of us, if we can just keep the flow of flowers, even at a trickle, it's going to be so much easier to grow that and to adapt with a flow than it is complete stopping and then having to restart this machine, you know, whether it be Mother's Day or wedding season in June or wherever it is. And so, you know, I'm excited that you guys were able to do that. You know, it's crazy, you know, because we all are probably getting questions like, what about pricing, or do we know this, or do we know that? And it's like,
Yes.
we don't know what farms are going to survive this, much less what the pricing is going to be, or, you know, because Yvonne put it really well, you know, it's like once they turn that water off, you can't magically have roses overnight, or you can't, you know, you're starting from scratch. And some of these companies have millions of dollars, you know, invested in plant material. And, you know, there's not that much margin in this industry for them to just totally, you can get a loan maybe, but you still got to pay it back. You know, I mean, it's like, it's just not economically feasible. And so thank you. I'm really glad. And, you know, and hope that is something that really kind of helps. I know at least 3 times in the last 24 hours, I've had people say something to me about how to get flowers. And I've told them, I'm like, well, LAX is shipping. So I didn't have the contact information, but I told them, reach out and find out, because that's definitely happening. And so,
Thank you.
but, you know, local growers, you know, local wholesalers, you know, it's going to be a struggle for everybody. And so
it is. It's that's a big thing for us right now. It kind of put a light on us when you know, the district attorney is knocking on our door, like wondering what the heck we're doing and why we're open and all of that. And so, you know, we wrote an article that we're going to be publishing just to help, because even in like my own little neighborhood, right? Like when I was talking to my neighbors, and, you know, now we're like across the street, like yelling at each other. But, you know, now they're just like, you know, when I'm like crying, like cause I'm a crier, like I'm very emotional, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And they're like, well, I mean, when everything goes back, it's going to be fine. And I go, no, that's not how it works. Like, it literally starts like years from now, like with a seed in the soil. Like, no one understands the process of what it takes to grow a flower, and then what that process is to get it into the bride's hands or into a centerpiece in someone's home. And normal everyday people don't get that. And I think our industry as a whole has been completely overlooked. of what the ramifications are about what is happening with the pandemic. And, everyone's, talked about some of the hospitality and the hotels and the airlines and the restaurants, but no one is talking about our industry. And we are definitely going to be trying to light fires and say, you need to pay attention. You need to understand what is going on with us. So that way people are more aware and hopefully can help us in get through this, because it's so complicated and people can't wrap their minds around it. Even when I tell my friends, oh, we're a wholesale florist, they don't even know what that means. Like, they have no idea. And I'm like, you need to come take a little tour and come to work and see what this is and what this means. They just, normal everyday people don't understand that. And I think we need, as a whole, to help get that industry out there of what is going on in our industry.
Can I ask a question? Yvonne, I guess this is going to be geared more towards you, but what, as a wholesaler, how does it work, or is it possible to work direct to consumer to the average Jane that wants to do something with flowers, especially in a time like this where they're home and they have time to be creative and I guess nurture themselves in their household? Is that possible through something like Mash, or?
I mean, because when I was reading our article that we're writing, I was thinking like about those same lines, even for like farms or for us. Like, it's possible, but most people don't have the infrastructure to do that. Or like for us, like if we decided to go that route, we're working on a tiny team. We can bear, like Brian and Charity, they've been the main ones handling these orders, and they're not sleeping, like they're working all day long until they go to bed, and then they wake up and they do it all over again. And so to like open it up to consumers and then have to worry about like the tax and how to do that. And it just, I don't see how that could happen, even like on a farm level. Like if they're not used to sending things that way, again, like we have like big giant shipping boxes. No one's gonna buy that. They don't want $300 worth of flowers. And that's kind of like what we're selling right now, $200 to $300. Not big orders for us, but for a consumer, like end consumer, that's a lot. And we don't have like the tiny little boxes to send to people. And the same thing with the farms. They're used to like packing their things a certain way. They have a certain process. They don't have the infrastructure in place, I don't think, to sell direct to consumer, and let alone like a website to handle those efficiently, because then that would cost even more money to do.
Yeah, understood. Oh my gosh, I had a question and it totally lost I lost that train of thought while you were speaking. Well, so the people that are purchasing the current $300 orders, what are they going towards, if you don't mind me asking? Or are they just playing? Are they floral designers like Alicia or Madison who are at home and they want to stay creative, or because restaurants aren't open, things aren't open?
Yeah, all just designers. I mean, we don't really. I don't think we sell to, our core is like wedding event people and florists, like retail flower shops. And so, yeah, a lot of them just figured out, again, the no contact delivery. Some of them might have funerals that they are allowed to send flowers to that are very small. Everything's very small, very tiny. But that is, I think, the most of it. I do think there are people that are like wanting to like create on their own and play, kind of like what Alicia was saying, like having a space to create and having that time to like have your mind wide open is amazing. In everyday life, that's really hard to find. So there is some of that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question for Joe about David Austin, because you guys really do both, right? So you guys are doing like cut flowers, but you're also doing planted flowers. And this is the time when all of the roses would be shipped and sent to people. And I would imagine that you can still do a bit of that, but having such a large physical space and having people come in and purchase, what has that been like for you guys, just in terms of like, because your variety is so interesting in what you do, that it's not just cut flowers, it's kind of everything. How have you guys been affected in what paths?
Yeah, we've been affected in different ways. The first thing that we had to close down was our plant center. which is open to visitors 365 days of the year, and they come over from all over the world. So that was the first that we closed straight away, because bringing visitors in, we needed to stop that, to protect the visitors. So that's all closed down. So from that perspective, we've a team of gardeners. Unfortunately, we've got one team of gardeners at the nursery at the moment, managing all the gardens to keep them going. There's one benefit in the UK, and we feel exceptionally fortunate about this, is that the government have introduced a furlough scheme where they're paying when you furlough workers, so it's like a leave of absence, the government paying 80% of the wage up until the end of May, and then companies can then top up to the 100%. So we have been very fortunate in that respect, and I know that's not the case in America. So we're incredibly fortunate to the government to provide that support. So from an employee point of view, that's in place. So there's a mix of a skeleton crew at the nursery, and it's about keeping things going. So Yvonne said, you know, people don't understand about the flower industry and all that entails. So on our skeleton crew, normally at this time we have 14, 15 people in our greenhouses, being the bees of nature, to do all the hybridization and the pollination. And now we're just stripped it back to the bare minimum, because that's our future, because the breeding program is so important, because they're developing the new varieties, and it takes 9 years. So what the guys are doing this year will be launching in 9 years' time. So all of this has a knock-on effect. At this time of year as well, it's all about planting in the fields, but it's planting stock. And this is for our shrub rose business, but it's planting stock for 2 years' time. So if you don't plant your stock now, the knock-on effect is not just now and next year, it's in 2 years' time. So it's with it's keeping a skeleton crew, the nursery, keeping them safe while still maintaining sort of a minimum level of what needs to be done. Now, what's the priority? So things like planting and pot spacing is all going on. I know with our growers on the cut rose side, so we've got Alexandra Farms, Rosa Prima, Tambuzi. So these are premium rose growers who've grown their business over many years as a family business like our own, and they are just having to maintaining plants now for the future, and that's the sadness of all of this. So we initially turned off our online business on our garden rose side, because it was about trying to keep staff safe. How are we going to deal with that? And then we've gradually turned that back on, because in the UK there is the government is supporting where possible, where it's safe, to keep the online business side going. So we're doing that as much as we can, not to the same level that we can, because we can't have that number of staff on site, but we are still doing something. And on the cut rose side, it's really hard, because obviously a key part of our business is our growers. So the likes of Alexandra Farms, Rosa Prima, these are our key parts of makes David Austin roses. And I know it's incredibly difficult for us all, and I've heard about the darkness and we're not sure where the light is coming from, but we keep trying to be positive and saying, you know, we're looking down the line. And there was just a small story that actually happened yesterday, and this sort of brings it home, the importance of flowers. A lady contacted me. She's in the UK. Her granddad died, not of COVID-19, but of another illness. And she was desperate for David Austin cut roses. Where do I get them from? Normally we'd have a number of sources, you know, we can point her to. And it was really important to her because her granddad had a love of David Austin roses. He wouldn't have any other roses in his garden. And so as his granddaughter, she wanted David Austin cut roses at his funeral, and she was desperate, and she reached out, and I managed to point her in the right direction. I knew there was the Real Flower Company were receiving small deliveries, and I said, I think you will hopefully manage to source these. But it meant such a lot to her to be able to get our roses because it was so personal. And she came back to me today on an email and said, oh, I'm so grateful. And we talked about how Mr. Austin would have been so pleased to hear about her granddad's story, not having any other rose in his garden. And that's a very small seed in the whole world of what's going on, but how it affects people so many levels. So we've got the growers, the wholesalers, the floral designers, ourselves as a breeder, right through to that granddaughter who was desperate to get flowers that was so important to her. She's going through such a difficult time, but she knew what that was a really important part of remembering her granddad. And so it's happening on so many levels. And but I wanted to share that just to show the importance of flowers really and how it touches people.
Yeah.
So it's affecting us in all sorts of ways. Yeah, and we feel heartbroken because like Mayesh, Alexandra Farms, David Austin Roses, Rosa Prima were all family businesses. Alicia and Adam, you know, and I'm sure Emily, you're from a family farm as well. So yeah, it's hitting hard.
I guess my question, without any knowledge of any of this, is like, what can we do from the people who are so affected by this and who are in the trenches trying to save flowers? How can we help? A lot of people have said, like, you know, if you go to the store and you're getting groceries, make sure that you grab flowers. And of course we also want to have our homes full of flowers, but past that, is there something? I'm just curious, just for everybody here, if you feel like there's anything that we can anything we can do or try to be able to help the many people and many levels of people that are affected by this.
I'll go first. Just kind of what I was mentioning before, you know, I'm working on putting together some type of, like, you know, press release kit that has our article in it that talks about not just us in general, but from, again, the farm level all the way through, and what happens when you're taking away a piece of that, and that it's not easy for farms to just turn off and turn on, and what those implications are. And so just, again, using everyone's, like, crowdsourcing PR efforts and getting it out and getting it to news and getting it to your neighbors and getting it out to everyone, so that way they're aware of what is going on. Because, like I said, I don't think that there is that awareness of it. People are focused on other industries, which is fine, but we need a voice as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to jump in and just say I was really glad to see a lot of wedding and event companies, and some of them being maybe not huge, but kind of medium to, yeah, I guess all different sizes actually, starting to reinvent themselves and having, retail deliveries and, Safeways, trying to meet all the criteria for that. And people that don't normally do it, people that are normally doing a wedding this weekend, they're trying to support either local growers, their local wholesalers, if they're shipping or if they have product, or shipping in product to, even in a small way, to try to put together small designs that people can go to a web shop, whether it's Shopify, whether it's your web, whatever it is. People, I don't know, some of the conversations I've been having, the thing that makes it easy to be positive and encouraged is, I don't know, and this is probably me being naive because I feel like in a way I grew up in this industry, even though I technically didn't, but I've been in it like my whole adult life, that we are some hardworking people, whether you're a grower, whether you're a wedding person, giving up your weekends or your weeks or your months, doing production and stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning, or up at the crack of dawn, shipping flowers, or whatever it is, we are a scrappy, hardworking group of people. And I'm encouraged when I see people that get out there and they're like, okay, what can I do? I don't think any of us like to be idle. I mean, what was crazy was, yesterday I wasn't having the best day, and I thought, you know what, something I haven't done really in years. I mean, I was blessed. I have 3 sons. They mow the yard, they do all this stuff while dad's at work or whatever. And I got out in the garden yesterday, and I'm like, which is, I mean, my degree's in horticulture. I love growing. I love having dirt under my fingernails, so to speak. And so being able to get out there and actually just, whether it's weed and prune, something that normally I would probably hate, was just like therapy for me. And then I come in and I see where, like, Kelly Shore, she's got a web shop now, or even Holly Chappell, who normally doesn't do deliveries like that, is cutting stuff at her farm and doing it, or people are shipping in product, from Mayesh or whoever, and then doing these little arrangements. I mean, it is a holiday weekend here, and people are, trying to do something to help brighten people's days. And that's the other part. It's like, who knows how many of these web-based businesses that are sprouting up are going to continue after this is over. Because, if a wedding gets, I mean, I'm surprised to hear that a wedding in September is being postponed to next year, because I would be like keeping my fingers crossed that, yeah, that's going to be fine. June, I kind of could see on the fence a little bit, but I don't know. I just feel like we don't know. I mean, this might totally change our industry. Well, it is going to totally change our industry, but just the individual businesses themselves might find new revenue streams and becoming more diversified, which, whether you're a grower, whether you're a designer, whether you have a retail brick and mortar shop, whatever, I feel like, there's opportunities, and I'm excited to see kind of what is going on. Am I nervous? Am I scared? Yeah, I am. I mean, because, a lot of these growers are friends of mine. It's just like, I was so glad, Yvonne, you had Chad on Morning with Mayesh on Monday, because I'm like, I've known Chad for years and years and years. And it's like, they hear that, and I called him up the next day after they said they were going to close. And I'm so excited to hear that, they're trying, they got the water on, they're going to try to fight through this, because, you lose a Euphoria rose, and that really impacts a lot of wedding people, all kinds of businesses. And these growers that do this specialty product, I don't feel like I don't know, they're not a dime a dozen. They put their heart and soul into it, and we've grown to rely and appreciate it. So anyway, I'll shut up now. So
we have Easy on tomorrow. I've been cranking out a lot of shows, so tomorrow I'm going live with Easy Flowers from the Netherlands. So I got a really big email from them, and I feel like, Joe, you might be seeing it too, but they feel like things on their end are starting to pick up a little bit. They're able to ship product out, and obviously it's not anywhere near what it was, but things are actually looking more positive for them, instead of, not knowing what's going on. So that's a good sign.
I think what we're finding as well, understanding what is happening with the bigger weddings and events, are they being postponed to later in the year? So is there going to be a real peak then, hopefully, when we're all back to some sort of normality, if in a very changed, different landscape? Or are you hearing that people are just postponing and pushing right back into next year? I know Parfum Flower Company in Holland, they're about to do a survey out to their community to find out from florists what their customers, what their brides to be. And I think all that type of information is really, really helpful and critical to know how the landscape is going to change and what it looks like. Alicia, you mentioned about how your brides are.
Most of my brides have pushed from the spring to the fall. So now fall is super crazy. I think I've only had 1 or 2 that have pushed to 2021. So most of mine are now, even some of my June brides have pushed to the end of August, you know, like already moving. But I do have like 1 in May, 1 in June that's still like hopeful, but I've already had all of my brides or planners reach out to me and like go ahead and put a date. And I think that's another thing is people are scrambling for dates because now, you know, all the, like every date in fall is getting booked. So those who would have wanted to push to fall sometimes even can't because fall's so booked up with either their venue already or the planner or someone else in the team that they want. So they're moving to 2021 because there's more availability.
Yeah, I would, just to chime in too, Alicia's 100% right. What I've seen with my events has been the same, that people prefer to keep it in the same year. So people want to move from the spring to the fall, but it's almost impossible to line all these people up. I mean, you have a team of 25 vendors plus the venue, and then trying to get all those people on the same page, it's virtually impossible. So some people are wanting to move to next year, but some vendors are requiring additional payments if they are moving to the next year. So there's an incentive for a lot of clients to stay in this year and not move to next year. But I just think because the dates are so difficult to line up, it's almost impossible that all of these events are going to stay within this year. So same.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, Scott, I loved your idea about like kind of shifting and being able to like create arrangements and sell them online. I think that's like super, super cool. And that's kind of a cool push also, perhaps, you know, for the industry to basically say, keep making what you're making and I'll buy it, you know, like Madison's like just across the river for me. Like I'll be buying your arrangement. You know, I think that's great. Joe, I was wondering too, and I'm sure this is just the same with your like cut flower business, but you know, I'll tell a little story and hopefully the government's not listening. We last year, Alicia and Kim and I had the luxury of being able to go and see and meet Joe in person at David Austin Roses. It was just so amazing. And there were 2 varieties that you had for bare root roses that were not available in the US. And so I smuggled them home.
Oh,
middle of the night in the pouring rain.
I did. I got rid of everything in my suitcase, and we might have been drinking a little wine, and everybody helped like get them in the suitcase. And but I just think about that because I know this is like planting time, and I just wonder like how that works too. And this is just out of curiosity. How does it work for a bare root rose that's ready to go and be shipped? If it's not, like, can that wait until next year and you just kind of cut it back down, or how does that affect that?
Well, we have I don't know the actual numbers, but we have huge, probably about 7 cold stores filled with bare root roses, which is to fulfill. They start filling up in October, so October last year. To fulfill the bare root season, so that the dispatch all happens right through to at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And that's in the UK, but also in the US as well. We're at our office there. So we're coming towards the end of the bear root season, and then the remaining bear roots in these big cold stores, then they're also potted on as well, which then go out onto our beds. So then they become potted roses, potted stock. So and that's a continuous process through the year. So yeah, there's going to be stock that will just be composted, because there is a small team there who are doing the bare minimum to keep the current stock that's planted in pots, ensuring the welfare of that, to retain it as much as possible. But yeah, there will be implications longer term on the stock. So it is almost you writing off a complete year, and yeah, so that's hard to take, and that's the same for all growers, whether it's on the cut rose side. Growers around the world are struggling, so we're doing what we can to keep a minimum level going and what's feasible, but obviously it's no way to the level that we normally do. So David himself is as pragmatic as he can be, and doing what he can to just keep things going as much as he can. But obviously this is his father's business, that it was his lifetime's passion, and the importance there is that we're just keeping it going, and we're in a strong position, and because of the UK government as well, that is a real big support. But it's heartbreaking to see, because no one would have been able to comprehend what has happened over such a short time period, and the effect that it's had on a global stage. And I think it's highlighted that I think the world is like a line of dominoes, and it's all very fragile, and one domino went, and it's just cascaded around the world. In terms of finding what we can do to help, it's on a cut rose side, whether you think, are we doing enough, are we doing the right thing, but one of our key things at the moment is to keep pushing those positive messages out, which is both to florists as well as consumers, as well as to our wholesalers. And we're getting we're getting good feedback, because you think, well, do people want to just have a look at a beautiful picture? And actually I looked through some of the comments back, and people were saying, your photos always make me happy. So if nothing else, if we're bringing some light relief to the world, then we're pleased about that. When I sent out a personal message when the COVID-19 was first taking place, somebody else responded, "Thank you for this message. It really does lift my spirits," because I think everybody does feel alone, and you can hear it in the pain that Yvonne's feeling, and Mayesh, and that's multiplied across the world in so many different ways. So we're focusing on pushing out those positive messages as much as we can, and we share our content with wholesalers such as Mayesh Delaware, and people around the globe. We're sharing those messages. And when we first shared our content during the initial COVID problem, we weren't sure if we were doing the right thing, but actually the feedback we had was really heartwarming. It was, people were coming back and said, "Thank you so much," and it was a way of connecting with people, and that's what we're clinging on to, connecting with people, and that sense of togetherness. so that's where we're pushing at the moment, hoping we're doing a little bit.
I have a question for Mayish, or maybe if anyone else has information. Have you guys been eligible for any of the like disaster loan relief stuff or the payment protection stuff for employees, or how is that looking for larger scale companies, or even if anyone else wants to chime in on like a smaller scale?
Yeah, I'll go real fast just because that isn't my expertise. I do know that our main accounting guy, I for some reason can't remember his title. He is him and our president Ben Powell, they're both here in Miami, and they've been working around the clock just figuring out like what is available to us. And so I do know that they are applying for different things. I just don't know what that is and what that's going to look like, or when that's even going to get to our company, and how it's going to look. So it's still like, I know they're working really hard on that and looking into it. And some of it does apply to us, but I don't know what.
Okay. Yeah. I've been interested in understanding like the scale and scope of that on different size companies.
Yeah. Is everyone else applying that with your business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm me, so I'm not a lawyer. I've definitely had conversations with people, and I wonder, you're so right, for the larger companies, it's so, I mean, it's just so difficult and it's so hard. And I don't know, I've talked to a lot of smaller companies, and I think, you know, people are of a couple different mindsets. It's like, do you know that you'll have the revenue to pay this back in the future? That's a concern. You know, I know there's benefits for like people with lots of employees where some of that would be forgiven perhaps, but some of the other uses of that money wouldn't be forgiven. And I think just for the larger like wedding industry, not just Floral, but everybody, people are hesitant, I think, just because there's so much uncertainty with regard to what their income will look like in the future. You know, it's a hard time to make that decision, you know, but for a lot of people with brick and mortar, it's like, you have to make the decision. You know, you keep going, and, you know, we hope for the best. So man, it's a really hard time for people with large overhead.
Adam just left because he's actually talking to our CPA. It took us like a long time to get an appointment with her because everyone is calling to discuss this right now. And so I think he had messaged her last week, and like Wednesday morning was like the earliest he could get on to talk to her. So I think that, and some things are like a first come first serve type situation too. So it's like whoever gets their applications in first. I don't even know all the things. They're discussing that now, but
yeah, there are some forgivable portions of that, but it is like a first come first serve.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, I don't think it matters the size of your company either.
Yeah, because I know for me, I feel like it's been difficult because when I've looked into it, which I haven't, I mean, this is not my background either, but it's like, because you may be like a contractor or like they refer to us as like a gig business, which doesn't feel good, but whatever. But, you know, it's kind of like, a lot of the things I was learning is like, wait till this week, because this week they're going to fine tune it for that situation. Meanwhile, you have other institutions that are saying, well, we're not doing any more of this. And then the government, I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways we're falling between the cracks a little bit, but then I feel like they're trying to fix that. But you know, at what point, I don't know, but I definitely know it's a hot topic right now.
In America, are different industries getting different grants or funds, or is it across the board?
It just depends on how your company is set up, like if you are as like what you are listed as and the nature of how you pay yourself or how you pay your employees. So there are different categories. I think there is probably some area that's falling through the cracks, but right now I feel like they've opened it up to account for business owners and even freelancers. So, but I'm sure there's something.
It seems like a lot of it is going first towards businesses that have payroll and employees versus kind of self-employed individuals. So it seems like they're putting the focus on those larger businesses where their payroll is being affected, is what I've seen, at least.
I wanted to ask a question real quick, if that's okay. Emily, I was curious because you're growing flowers and things. I mean, what percentage of what you do right now is something that is like perennial or woody that would, survive versus bulbs or spring annuals? I mean, I'm just trying to, because I mean, that's the hard part for a small grower.
Right. Yeah. I know I've been wanting to chime in from like the small scale side of things. So I know we've talked a lot about like wholesale and big major growers. But on the small scale side of things, I'm almost a little bit hopeful that this whole ordeal will kind of be an eye opener. And like you were saying, how a lot of people are kind of thinking quick and switching things up a little bit. And I'm kind of hoping that this will open a lot of designers, event designers, or whoever is buying a lot of flowers, also opening up their eyes to other alternative channels for getting their flowers, like small growers who like really kind of, the world has become so small in so many ways that we don't even know that somebody in the same village might be growing flowers and might be a really great source for sourcing unique content. So hopefully that's kind of how encouraging people to kind of reach out and look around and see what's immediately available when you can't get stuff shipped in. So that makes me kind of hopeful that maybe new connections will be made. Like Joy was saying, that she'll buy flower arrangements that Madison might make, and Madison's buying from several local growers who are doing contactless drop-offs and those kinds of things. So that makes me excited. For me personally, most of what I actually had like an exciting expansion project in the works this year. So it's kind of anticlimactic that the timing should be as it is, but I'm just kind of going ahead with that anyway. And I planted a bunch of bare root roses last autumn. I already invested in all the spring bulbs last autumn, and those are blooming now. I also invested in my dahlia tubers in like December and January. So those just got delivered. So I'm growing all these flowers and I don't really know who I'm growing them for, but it's therapeutic. Like you were saying, just getting out in the garden and working the soil is a therapy in itself. And I'm just kind of trying to embrace the if you grow it, they will come mentality. And I'm just, if all else fails, hopefully I'll do some nice photo shoots or get some nice marketing stuff for next year or the years after. I've made some investments. I'm kind of scaling back on some levels. I'm just kind of going to grow more of the easy things, like a whole row of cosmos, the relatively labor non-intensive things. But a lot of the investments have already been made, so I'm still gonna, and they need to be planted, otherwise it kind of becomes not so viable in the years to come. So I'm just gonna do it and see and be hopeful.
So years ago, Emily started the Lonely Bouquet, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I really want to do that.
So where her and her darling daughter were making bouquets and just randomly leaving them around town with notes for people to take them, which I love the concept of that. And I feel like you could potentially, with your blooms, continue that on because there's no contact if you're, I don't know how many people are wandering the villages at the moment, but what a nice surprise for people to find your bouquets for, I don't know, to bring some joy.
Yeah.
I just want to say I love the Lonely Bouquet at Mayish. We actually, I don't know if you noticed, but we did it for a few years, like up through like all of our branches. We would come, they could pick out whatever flowers they wanted, make a few bouquets, and then all of our customers would take it and drop it off like wherever they wanted to. So
really I love you guys for spreading it on the mass scale like that.
Yeah, it was very fun.
But I'm hoping that's, I totally have that plan, but I wanted to do it already now with all the daffodils and tulips, but when you go out, there's like nobody out. And I think people are so hesitant to even touch anything that somebody else has touched potentially, So right. I don't foresee them being picked up anytime super soon, but I I've just been taking buckets of daffodils to the local kind of organic store that's selling that's open and kind of selling small scale things. And I'm totally keeping my eyes out to see when people are going to be more out and about to get that going again, because that'll be fun.
Yeah. You could put like the time that you left it, you know, like this was like 3 days ago, so it's okay to touch now or whatever.
I know. It's gone through quarantine.
Only you could like leave a pair of gloves with it too.
Uh-huh, that's
Totally,
true.
I know.
Clorox
funny
wipes
because-
as like the packaging.
Yeah. Wifey included. Well, it's funny because the local area is actually really not thinking outside of the box. Like they're very not close-minded, I would say, but they're not like, when I first started it, I was doing it in my local village, and they would just be there for like a week or two and nobody would pick them up. So the Dutch people are way more into it and way more outgoing, and but the border's closed, so I can't even go in there anymore.
I was reading about Royal Floral Holland's campaign that they've started, which was it's hashtag buy flowers not toilet paper. I don't know.
I love that when I saw that.
Because that was the first thing that went in all the shops, certainly in the UK and obviously in Holland as well.
And here too. Yeah.
On the shelves. So I did love that hashtag buy flowers not toilet paper, so we'll definitely get behind that. So
I think that's so hard. I think that's one of the hardest things in our industry right now, is that flowers are such a luxury product, and like and it's so hard to remain relevant when are people going to have disposable income, you know, like how much are people going to be able to afford flowers? There's so many, I know so many flower growers, and luckily with the timing this year have kind of made the switch to growing more vegetables than flowers this year, just to have a secure income, I guess. I don't know. It's such a weird, like, I love that hashtag, but then part of me is also like, you can't really wipe your butt with flowers either, you know. But
I was gonna say you could though. I would.
I guess. Maybe the leaves.
And it would smell nice at the end, you know?
I know, yeah. Just sprinkle some rose petals.
I'm allergic to flowers. That would not be good.
Don't tell David what we're doing with his roses.
I've got to report back. I won't.
Emily dropping the realness just there.
I don't think you have to worry about roses. So.
I think Emily has a great point though, of just like keeping a positive attitude. I think so much of the aftermath of this, like our attitudes are gonna have so much influence on how everyone responds. And if we're just staying calm and still making things and just being ready for life to resume again, I think is gonna really encourage other people to do the same.
Mm. I agree, Madison, as well. I was talking to somebody, it was a colleague, and we were saying what is the landscape going to look like after this? And I sort of went back to my school days, my history lessons. So after the Second World War, I know that the UK government then set up the Great Exhibition. So I can imagine that if we can keep this positivity and running through, great creativity and entrepreneurship and strength will come out the other side of this. I mean, that's what I'm hoping, and I think that's what I'm gathering from people, that, you know, we're all in this together, and when we get through this, in whatever form or shape it takes, we will have a new approach, a fresh approach to things, and a new vision, and I hope that will be for the better for everybody. But I know it's challenging, so many challenges at the moment. But I just think about the Great Exhibition that was in London, and that was like the stimulus and the catalyst for some great ideas that probably still are in place today. So that's what I hope for.
Can you say that again? The great what? I want to read about
I know, I
it.
wanted to look that up too. The Great
Yeah,
Exhibition.
I'm going to have to make sure that I've said that. I'm sure it's the Great Exhibition. I'm sure it was in the 1950s. I'll have to do my research again. So, but I'm sure
1951, Joe.
19, oh, so I was okay.
Yeah, you're on your history, Joe. That's great.
I'm on the history. I was obviously paying attention, but yeah. So 1951 was it?
1951.
Okay, yeah, in London. So I think that's because everybody in floral designers, nature, it's incredible, and how you bring people together with flowers and gardening and what nature brings.
Yeah.
And starting to really appreciate, and I think to Yvonne's point, because people don't understand the flower industry, don't understand what is involved, and maybe this will be a time where people will look and appreciate flowers a lot more than they maybe do at the moment, because all the great creativity, the craftsmanship, the artisanship, the number of hours, like Scott said, the hard work, labour that goes into it, you know, to create something incredibly beautiful. And I always go back to what else celebrates or marks life moments from when you're a baby. So a newborn baby, flowers for birthdays, anniversary, to say thank you, to say sorry, weddings, and then right through to the granddaughter I was speaking to yesterday, wanting them for the funeral, for her granddad's funeral. It touches lives throughout life.
Right.
So that, I think that's the core strength we've got to keep channeling and pushing through there.
Yeah, flowers are the best memory makers. Like, so many of the memories you have are tied to a smell, or like the lilacs in May, or, you know, like that.
Yeah.
That they have such a power over emotion. Flowers, it's amazing.
Absolutely, it's the one thing that connects us all, and it's they say the language of flowers. I mean, it crosses borders, doesn't it? It's one thing, the language of flowers, it speaks to everybody. It doesn't matter what language you speak in the world.
Well, that's the coolest thing that I've found through what I'm doing the last couple of years. Has really, I'll have people come and visit the garden and learn here, who speak like 5 words of English, but somehow through flowers and through the experience, and it's such a visual and physical experience, flowers, and through, you don't even have to speak the same language. There is really a language of flowers. Like, just sharing that is so wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you notice the visitors in the garden, when like Kim and Joy and Alicia came, and you just see visitors with their heads in the flower beds, and then they come up, and they always come up with a smile up on their face.
I think I did that too. I think
I think we have photos of all of us with our head in the
the
bushes.
Yes.
The gardeners find a lot of like glasses, people's spectacles in the border because they've gone into
Joe, you know what? Maybe this is life telling us to stop and smell the roses.
Oh,
that's nice.
Oh, Emily, that's so nice.
I miss you.
You guys.
Oh, well, I feel like that's a beautiful place to end our conversation. You know, stop and smell the roses, indeed.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And we thank everybody for being here today. And if there is Yvonne or Joe or Emily or whoever has a message, if there's anything that we can help share within our communities, please let us know. We'd love to help spread that message and keep the positivity going and all that good stuff. So let us know.
Amazing. I will. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys, all the best.
Thank you for doing this.
Go smell some flowers outside in your neighborhood, your garden, or wherever you can.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.